Hello and welcome to this video. Let me begin by presenting my apologies to viewers outside of the Africa region. I learned from your comments that I focus most of my explanation on the Africa region than other regions. Now, it is not that I intend to neglect one region or the other, but this usually happens because of time. Not my time, but your time. Most people do not have the time or the patience to watch long videos, and so I try to make the videos as short as possible, while at the same time I intend to assist as many cases as possible. And the best way I thought I could do that was to target the Africa region because that is where most of my viewers are located. However, because you have expressed this concern, what I'm going to do from now on is to cover the three big regions in my explanations and examples. Now, that is going to result in some of the videos being longer than usual, but if that is what it takes to affect cases in other regions outside of the Africa region, then I'm going to do so. So that is it for that. Now, to our discussion for today, which concerns high case numbers. Welcome back to this discussion. In my last video, I led you to one of my web pages where I have different case number ranges. It is the highest case number ranges from the three big regions as shown on that web page that are under discussion in this video. According to that web page, case numbers in the Africa region that are 40,000 and above can be considered as high case numbers. In the Asia region, case numbers that are more than 10,000 are considered as high case numbers, and in the Europe region, case numbers that are 25,000 and above can be considered as high case numbers. Now, these are the default high case number range for each of those regions. What that means is that these case number ranges are what are generally considered as high case number ranges. It is true that the highest case number in each region changes every year, and someone may decide to wait to know the highest case number in a particular region before coming up with what they think is the highest case number range for that region for that year. But it is also possible to identify the default highest case number range in each region. And what allows us to do that is past experience. And that is what is interesting about the diversity visa program. There are systems and mechanisms that have been put in place to administer the diversity visa program, and these systems and mechanisms have established a certain trend. So what you need to do is to observe those trends, and based on those trends, you can say this is what we can expect, or you can establish something. And so that is how the default highest case number range for each region that is shown on that webpage came about. So once again, if you are from the Africa region and you have a case number of 40,000 and above, consider that to be a high case number, no matter what the highest case number in the Africa region will be. If you are from the Asia region and you have a case number that is above 10,000, consider that to be a high case number. If you are from the Europe region and you have a case number of 25,000 and above, it is a high case number. So you don't have to wait until you get to know the highest case number in each of those regions to determine the default highest case numbers in each of those regions. That is what the way the diversity visa program is currently being administered imposes. In the future, there may be changes to the mechanisms or systems put in place. And as a result of that, we may see changes in the case number ranges. But for the time being, these are the default high case number ranges. Whenever there is a change to the mechanism that is currently administering the diversity visa program, we will get to know by looking at the numbers. And at that time, we will act accordingly. So that was to provide you with some explanation of how we come about with the default highest case number range for each of the regions. Now, having established that, what can we say about high case numbers? Will they never be scheduled for interview? And the answer is not necessarily. They are not necessarily doomed. They may or may not be scheduled for interview. They may not be scheduled for interview for reasons that you are already aware of. There are 55,000 visas that are available for the DV 2023 program or any other program for that matter. In the case of the DV 2023 program, there were a total of 119,262 entrants that were selected for the 55,000 visas. So when you do your calculations, you will see clearly that more than half of those who were selected will not receive one of the diversity visas by the end of the DV 2023 program. Moreover, as you already know, interviews are scheduled beginning with the lowest case numbers up to the highest case numbers, which put cases with high case numbers at a disadvantage for two reasons. The first reason is that the 55,000 visas may be exhausted before this fiscal year comes to an end, but that doesn't usually happen. And then it is also possible for the fiscal year to come to an end without interviews being conducted for the highest case numbers. That is why I say that they may not be scheduled for interview. Now, on the other hand, they may be scheduled for interview. And that is because there is a window of opportunity that exists, especially during the second half of the fiscal year. And that window of opportunity is when the regions or a region or the region that is concerned goes current. Remember, we said that at the end of every month, the visa office receives reports from the various embassies and consulates and tries to create a balance between visa availability and demand for visa. Usually at the beginning of the fiscal year, like now, visa availability is lower than demand for visa. That is, you have more people that are ready for interview than the number of visas that are available for the month. And so that is why the cutoff numbers are established to keep demand for visas at a certain level. But when you get in the second half of the fiscal year, usually visa availability goes above demand for visa. In other words, there are more visas on offer during the latter months of the fiscal year than there are applicants who are ready for interview. And so to increase the number of those who are ready for interview, the regions or some of the regions are made current. In other words, the case number no longer matters. What matters at that point is the other condition that the case must meet in order to be scheduled for interview. And in the case of DV 2023, that other condition is the submission of your DS-260. So once you have submitted your DS-260, no matter your case number at that time, you may be scheduled for interview. That is the window of opportunity that high case numbers have. So with a high case number, when your region goes current, you have the possibility of being scheduled for interview like any other case in that region that has not yet been scheduled for interview. That is why I have been saying to some of you who have been asking whether you have a chance to be scheduled for interview that yes, you have some chance. And that chance comes alive when your region goes current. It is true that not all high case numbers will be scheduled for interview. Some will be scheduled for interview, others won't be scheduled for interview. But as things stand, you do not know which high case numbers will be scheduled for interview and which high case numbers will not be scheduled for interview. And so your duty is not to give up until the very end. That is what I can say to you if you have a high case number in your region. Now, before we end, let me provide you with some explanation concerning submission of DS-260 for high case numbers. You are aware that your DS-260 is your official application to the United States government for immigrant status. In other words, when you submit your DS-260, you are saying to the United States government that you are interested in immigrating to the country. And so when you submit your DS-260 and you do not get scheduled for interview in the diversity visa program, you remain on record as someone who has the intent or the intention to immigrate to the United States. And so if later you apply for a non-immigrant visa, the consular officer may think that you wish to use that opportunity of the non-immigrant visa to achieve your intention of immigrating to the United States. And because of that, you could be denied that non-immigrant visa. And so for those of you with high case numbers who intend to visit the United States, you have to follow the visa bulletin and see whether your case number is very likely to be scheduled for interview. That is when you can submit your DS-260 in case you have the intention of applying for a non-immigrant visa. So that concerns those who have the intention of perhaps visiting the United States. But in case you do not have any intention of visiting the United States or applying for a non-immigrant visa, then you can well submit your DS-260 at any time, even at the beginning of the fiscal year, provided you do not have any other thing to add to your DS-260 later. So that is how submission of DS-260 for high case numbers is handled. Now, for those of you who wish to have access to my webpage containing the different case number ranges, I'm going to include the link to that page in the description of this video. Click on that link and you will be led to the webpage. Once on the page, scroll down and you will find tables that contain the different case number ranges. Which brings us to the end of today's discussion. Thanks for watching the video, and as usual, if you have comments or questions, you can leave them in the comment area below and I'm going to respond to them. And I will see you, God willing, in the next video. Goodbye.